guys ready?
Yeah.
We are ready. Welcome to the podcast.
You want that to be the introduction? I wouldn't mind.
Well, might as well.
At least call it by the name.
Welcome to Town Center.
That's the introduction, my friends. All right. Hello, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Masmorra.
And I'm TheViper.
And this is episode 3 of the Town Center, your monthly podcast dedicated to all things Age of Empires. And man, what an amazing show we have for you today. We're joined here by Hera in the Game Religion Gaming House. He joins us fresh off his victory in King of the Desert 5, where he had to beat none other than my dear co-cast himself, TheViper, who obviously had a pretty good tournament run anyway. This is now the second consecutive victory for Hera in a 1v1 S-tier tournament after winning NAC 4. Funny enough, that was also here in this very same house. Hera, it's a pleasure to have you here in Berlin. Thank you so much for taking the time, and welcome to the show, my friend.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, and it's great to be here. I'm actually really excited to do the show with you guys. So yeah, let's do it.
Just remember to eat the microphone.
Yeah, just kiss the microphone the whole time, my friends. And no, Viper, winning an $80,000 tournament is not too bad, I guess. But the real test in Age of Empires skill and knowledge is coming later on in the day.
For sure. We're going to have a little bit of a quiz. You're familiar with those. I don't think me and Hera ever had a quiz against each other before, but today we're going to test the real. It's going to be the real final. Not that King of the Desert crap that no one cares about.
Who cares about micro and macro?
Yeah,
it's about the knowledge
exactly.
and the quiz questions.
Do we have a prize for the quiz, by the way?
I'm not sure we do.
Pride and honor.
Yeah, pride and honor.
But either way, that's going to be coming a bit later. So you'll probably see that within a week or two.
So we have a lot to cover today. We'll obviously discuss at length MemTV's King of the Desert 5 and everything surrounding the event. We'll discuss the current state of the game as the criticism of the community has grown a bit louder recently, in light of the fact that a lot of the bugs have remained unaddressed for such a long time. The Nations Cup and Team Canada's run is also on the menu. And despite the success of tournaments like KotD V and NAC 4, there are some worrying signs for the esports scene in Age of Empires 2 that I'd like to discuss. As always, we're going to finish the episode with a short Q&A session. All right, let's do this. King of the Desert 5. Hera, you're having an absolutely amazing year so far. As I said before, KotD was your second consecutive victory in an S-tier 1v1 tournament. But perhaps even more impressive for me is that you made it to the final of the last 5 S-tier 1v1 tournaments. And funny enough, the 2 finals you did not win were against Mr. TheViper himself.
The thing was against me. It was just that we didn't face in the final.
No, it was against you. Both finals you lost was against you.
It was TTL and Warlords.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
He knows.
True,
he knows. He's got a grudge.
I wear them.
I wear them in the finals. It makes sense. Yeah.
I wear them as battle scars.
So it's pretty obvious you're in incredible shape right now. And a lot of players, they start preparing for a tournament weeks before it starts. But it seems to me one of your strengths is that you're basically always preparing. I mean, whether there's a tournament on the horizon or not, you're always grinding. And every time I watch your stream, you really seem to take every single game seriously, and you see it as an opportunity to improve, to further improve. I've seen you get mad when you lose and get pissed when you lose, and I've seen you really applaud yourself and celebrate when you win. So you kind of try hard the whole time, and there's no negative connotation here to try harding. Would you agree that this is something that right now separates you from the rest of the field?
Well, first of all, I would say that when it comes to taking every game seriously and stuff, that's just something that comes natural to me. It's not something I do to be in shape or in case there's a tournament that comes up or something like that. It's just something that I enjoy doing. Even if I play some other games just for fun, I usually like to just do the best I can at it. And even if it's something that doesn't bring anything, that's just the kind of person I am when it comes to gaming. I just try to do the best possible. But because Age of Empires, of course, is has become something big for me, obviously just took that to the next level. That same mentality to the next level. But yeah, I think it definitely helps out. The rank ladder and stuff. It's not definitive. You can't look at the leaderboard and be okay, that's the ranking of players. But I think playing the rank ladder frequently helps me stay in shape. So when a tournament comes through, I don't work on getting in shape. I just work on those particular settings, and it helps me save a lot of time, pretty much.
Doesn't help MBL though, but I just want to say, I started imagining Hera playing Sims 4, for example, full try. Gotta keep that toilet.
That's what I wanted to ask. When you're playing cards with your friends, are you this competitive as well?
Yeah, I mean, I know how to recognize the social environment and stuff. So I'm not gonna suck the fun or the life out of the room just to win. But I'm also not gonna intentionally see myself doing something wrong in the game and then be like, I'm cool with this, you know. I am playing suboptimally and I'm just so happy to do so. Like,
I like that.
And there are some limitations. Like when I play something like Super Smash, like I suck at that game, but I'll play. I acknowledge that I'm bad, and I'm cool with that. You know, I play for fun, and that's fine. But I guess it just depends on the game. But yeah,
Hera, when he's a father, he's gonna not those children are not gonna have a good.
I'm not gonna let them win.
Yeah,
I'm not,
that's fair. That's
yeah,
fair.
they gotta earn that. You know what I mean?
I like it. I like it.
I'm gonna maybe go a little easier, but you know, the first one has to be from them. You know,
Makes
and
sense. Makes sense.
Do you guys know this TikTok trend? It's like you have a family of children, you have like siblings, and there's one which is much older than the other one, and he starts playing nice, but then the younger sibling starts talking shit, you know, and he just goes beast mode and really destroys him. That's how I kind of see her right now. Viper, you obviously also had an incredible tournament run, and as someone who's watched you play for decades now, it really seemed like top shape Viper to me, and you did say that in a tweet, if I'm not mistaken. You played greedy with very few walls, but you know, almost very controlled, very without taking unnecessary risks, I'll say. One game in particular that really stood out to me, and I want to hear from you about it, was that Lithuanians versus Berbers game against MBL. Do you remember that one? You were ahead the whole time, right? You were ahead the whole time, but not by much. It was a pretty close game. And I've seen this many times, but some folks, when they feel like they're slightly ahead, they really try to finish the game pretty fast, right? They're not patient. And I think that's something that never occurs to you. You were really patient in that game. You just kept pushing your advantage forward and forward and forward. And at some point, MBL couldn't do anything about it. But you know, I know we want to say something. Wait a second. But when you lose a final 5-0, all of these things suddenly seem to go out of the window, and you know, and the comments like Viper's washed up, Viper has too much money to care about. All those things start coming to the surface. How do you deal with those types of comments? Do they get to you?
No, like I'm used to it by now. I mean, it's been like for a long time already. Even when I was winning a lot back in the, let's say, 10 years ago, the second I lost the tournament game, people would be there already commenting, right?
Well, the thing is, you never lost tournaments.
No,
10 years ago.
Even then, but even if I won a set 3-2, I would see comments like, "Oh, this is, you know, like I won the game."
He's not that good,
exactly.
You know?
Yeah, but things like that. But I mean, like it's the part of being in the spotlight as well as a streamer. Like even as a streamer, I compare it a little bit to being a streamer, where you're like having comments on the chat. Like I'm sure you're familiar with it. You play a game, you might lose, you might maybe a bit frustrated, maybe not. It doesn't matter. But then you see comments in chat, and they're like, sometimes they get to you, right? They can be super annoying. It's the same when you play tournaments or whatever. Like you will see comments after that are kind of nonsense, to be fair. But sometimes they do get to you, whether you want to or not. But yeah, I think I have enough experience at this point, and also sure enough in myself, where like they don't really bother me at all. So
What kind of comments do get to you? You just said some do.
At this point, I wouldn't say anything really gets to me, but I mean, in the past, it would be like if I lost to a guy I shouldn't lose to, for example, and I read comments like. I don't even know what for any specific examples right now, but like anything can be like just a soft trigger. Even like something that is like there could be 10 comments that are way worse than that one comment, but that one comment might just strike something in you, and that's the weird thing.
That's how it works. Our brains, right? Exactly. We only focus on the negative.
And you can read like 50 positive comments, and then
the one negative is the one you're gonna remember tonight. Yeah.
But that's just how humans work, right? And I'm no different.
I just want to comment, like you mentioned, like when you lose to someone you're not supposed to lose to, and that feeling, especially when you're like closer to the top, pretty much any loss you get to someone like you should have been the favorite, but that's just such an unrealistic expectation.
Of course,
that's set on you as you're just going on tournament to tournament. And I felt like no matter what you did, if ever you had a bad result, it was like you were the favorites who got upset, and that's just such a hard thing to keep up. So
what I don't like about that as well is that it takes away so much credit from the opponent.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the opponent might have had the best game of his life, but the focus is how you messed up.
Yeah.
It's not crediting the opponent, right? Of course, you can always explain yourself and be, I felt like I had a bit of an off day in this, but as long like it shouldn't take away the credit for the opponent, because a lot of times when you have bad days, like for example in the final, I did feel a bit off, but also you punished every single mistake I made, right? And that's the thing. Like if I've had that as well, probably many times in the past, where I've beaten probably you yourself as well. I felt like you felt maybe a little bit off, but I didn't let you off the hook, right? And then it's like, if you have those bad dates in quotes against lesser players in quotes, you get away with it, right? But in these cases, you don't. And it's like that's where the credit should go to the opponent rather than like all the negative bullshit that people tend to throw.
Yeah, fair. Hera, do talk a little bit about your tournament run. I mean, it just felt to me right from the beginning, you were so ready to win the whole thing. Did you feel from the beginning that there was something really special about the way you were playing and you were so ready to do it?
Yeah, so actually, I was practicing with Hart and with Leary, and we had to qualify, so we started practicing a little bit earlier. But it wasn't until, I don't remember exactly when, it was one practice session that I kind of figured out the playstyle and the approach I want to take. And it was only after that session that I felt like, okay, I actually have a good chance to make it far. Before that, I actually felt like it was completely 50-50. Like,
can you reveal what was the thing that kind of clicked for you?
It wasn't anything specific, but I just figured that if I up fast, I have a good chance to scout my opponent, and also I have a good chance to lure all my deer. So my whole approach was, and this is a bit like technical now, but
we want to hear those things.
My whole approach was, if I can spam lure deer in the first 5 minutes, get all 3 deer in, and then up 18 pop. I use the deer to get the 18 pop, so my feudal age isn't hurt, and then I have the bigger scout, faster scout to actually scout my opponent. So I was able to do both, and I sacrificed the laming. So if you notice, I never really went laming, which kind of backfired in some games where I was the one getting lamed. Like, those are the hardest ones for sure, because then like my opponent's on 3 boars, and I'm kind of like, the deer is just not enough. But it was when I figured that this is a good style to have for that specific KotD, then I felt like, okay, I'm going to stick to this for like the 90% of my games, and I think it was a really good approach. And I think you actually had a similar one, to be honest.
Yeah. I kind of have a similar like the way it worked for me as well was I was training a fair bit with like Doubt. I had some with Winchester and Taro, but I didn't really know what was the best way to play the map, because the map is, even though it's still Arabia, it's still a different way of playing Arabia, right? And with the new balance changes and whatnot, it takes time to figure out how to play. And like went through all the phases of like 2 militia drush, 2 minute arms, to the drush flush that people are doing now, like just straight feudal age, and like tried all these different things. And I never really felt comfortable with what is the way to play the map, because we like initially in the qualifiers we saw a lot of the drush flush, whatever, and then as the tournament go on, suddenly you see a lot more scouts and the transitions to archer. But yeah, like I had the same way where it's like at some point it just clicked, and like of course it is against Doubt, so you never know if it's accurate or not. But like you just get the feeling, okay, this is actually like, it feels like you can control the game more like this, and yeah, it's similar to like the faster uptime where you can kind of more adapt a little bit. But like also, for example, like I know you like Mongols, got like super fast Mongols and take control of the game, so that's like something in the final I wanted to get rid of that. But that's just like the play style that works for this King of the Desert Arabia, I think. So
yeah, and I don't even mind revealing or talking about it, because I really do think it's very specific for that map. Like, even if there's another Arabia tournament tomorrow and the map's just different, like all of a sudden Drush full wall might be a good strat. But I think actually one thing that, and I'm happy we both got to the finals, one thing that you noticed from me and Viper's games in particular was that we always played very consistent Dark Ages, like very risk-free. Yeah. Whereas other people like Yo and MBL would be going for like the laming approach a little bit more.
So interesting how the styles can be so different and so effective at the same time.
And still all got to the semifinals,
right?
Right,
yeah. Effective.
That's cool.
Exactly, yeah. And like all of those approaches were valid. And you know what? Even like Mr. Yo's draft was full of cavalry civs, but I never felt like it was bad. It was just different. It was just his style.
No, dude. Every time I look at Joe's draft, I'm just like,
I know. I thought he was trolling too. I was like, if that's me, I'm just getting destroyed. Like, there's no way I'm gonna win with that.
What about
draft,
it? Because he doesn't have too many archers.
No, he picks like Poles, Burgundians, these types of civs, right?
Very slow civs. So
on that like, map as well, it's like
that's just so scary to have.
MBL with Spanish and civs like that is just like. I did pick Bengalis myself, but I mean, come on. Bengalis are good though.
Bengalis are good.
They are good.
I was talking with Leary and I said, I'm going to ban Bengalis with Viper. But then as it went on, I was like, you know what? That's just going to be his last pick. And there's other good stuff, so I'll let him have it. But Bengalis are good.
They are good.
Yeah, it was actually something I was a little bit worried about.
I think with the way the meta developed as well, where it was either you open fast archers or you go scouts into skirm, whatever.
Yeah.
Bengalis have perfect way to play that, because you can open scouts, you can open range, whatever. Or like if you open range, you switch into scouts to counter his skirms, and you have the +2 attack for free. Yeah. It's actually insane.
And you scale very well with that stuff. So
I won every game in training with Bengalis.
There's something that Davis told me, which I think is pretty interesting, because a lot of people seem to think that whenever a map is very open, that the games are going to be more aggressive. And something that Davis told me, which I think makes sense, but I want to hear your guys' take, is that when the map is very open, a lot of people tend to play a little bit more defensive because they're afraid of sending their armies forward. They want to, keep control of their bases.
Makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah. And did you see that in the tournament?
I mean, personally, I don't really notice or pay attention to those things when I'm watching. Like, if I get like a task, hey, look, does this appear more defensive or offensive? Right, then I will notice. But as a player myself, if the map is super open, sometimes I'd rather maybe like instead of making my scouts and send them forward right away, I might keep the 2-3 scouts at home until I'm feeling safe and then go forward. So there is something to that for sure. not sure if specifically this King of the Desert was like that, because people always sent like if you made 2 archers or 2 spears, you go forward by default.
Mhm.
But yeah, maybe there is something there.
Yeah, I think there's a balance of you have to, if you're going to go for a strategy, you have to make use of it. So if your strategy is to go like 2 archer, 2 spear, you can't just make 2 spear and just sit at home.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, depending on your
Fair.
approach,
Mhm.
you have to do something. But in general, the people who are supposed to be the favorites for the set will 9 times out of 10 play defensive if they have a bad map. Or
Interesting.
do a tower. But you know what? Having bad maps opens up for the underdog to do a lot of crazy stuff, take a
Yeah.
lot of risks, and sometimes that can really pay off. So
Mhm.
I can see like both ways for that one.
All right. So there were several surprising good runs in the tournament. And from the top of my head, I have MBL or Vivi, both guys.
But that's again, we say surprising,
Well,
right?
in the
It's
case,
not really
in the
surprising.
case of MBL
Yeah.
especially, it's not really a surprise. He's so incredibly good on Arabia, right? But there was one result in particular, which in my opinion might probably be one of the biggest upsets
wonder
in
what
the
he's talking
history
about.
I
of
wonder
the
as well.
competitive scene. Larry was pretty much considered one of the top favorites to win the whole tournament, lost 3-0 in the round of 16 to the French powerhouse Citeaux. And the most remarkable thing to me, Hera, was how Citeaux beat Larry. Relentless pressure from minute 1. Was such an impressive performance from Citeaux, in my opinion. Now, Hera, no one knows Larry better than you do. So what do you make of that match? Was Larry caught off guard by the aggression from Citeaux?
Yeah, so first thing I'll say is you might think that Leary, didn't play his best. And while that might be true, I actually feel like he didn't play bad either. I actually watched back some of those games. And once he stabilized, he definitely made some mistakes. But once he stabilized in some of the games, he was playing pretty well. However, Citeaux, went for a style that was super punishing. Combine that with the open map, and you are left with very little room to make a mistake.
For mistakes, yeah.
So the thing is, Citeaux went for laming. Citeaux went for like the aggressive 2 militias, and he went for the market abuse after all that. And so what happened is Leary would make a mistake at the early part of the game, fall a little bit behind, and then the market abuse comes in, selling the stone. That's what I mean by market abuse. Selling the stone, and then going for that all-in push, and that was just too much for Leary to deal with. And you combine that with some forward golds that he had on some maps, and it all played a factor. And last thing I'll mention along those lines as well, Citeaux's civs were all meant for that. He had Mongols. I don't know what else he had, but like
Japanese.
Yeah, Japanese. All those early game savings.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of factors that piled up and made it very hard for Leary to actually, win after making an early
So
mistake.
you put the credit fully and totally on Citeaux. It was not that Leary was feeling bad or
I mean,
he
listen,
was not prepared.
Leary lost four vills to a drush. So like we made fun of him for that for sure. He'll definitely be the first guy to say like I messed up. So like Leary obviously could have done better, but I think it's the kind of thing we mentioned earlier. But in this case, just give the credit to Citeaux,
Yeah.
Right.
and that's much healthier. Like Citeaux that was a great performance. It's not just like whoever gets to the top tables is going to be like the guy to celebrate. Citeaux is definitely one to celebrate there, and that was a great result from him. Simple
I
as
think it just also shows like how to like if you're the underdog, those are the types of things you can do, right? He prepared well. He
Right.
obviously know how Leary plays, and he tries everything to punish
To
that.
counter the
There's
style, right?
preparation and execution at the when it matters, right? And of course, even if Leary had a bit of an off day, it doesn't matter, right? Citeaux forced all the issues, and normally Leary might get away with those on a bad day, but since Citeaux's playstyle was geared toward that hyper aggression, there's just no coming back from those things.
Yeah,
So,
I have to admit I haven't watched too many games from Citeaux, but I was so surprised how aggressive. From the first minute he goes lame with 2 villagers forward.
That's
stuff like
also we talked about playstyles earlier, right? And then he tries to do exactly the same thing against MBL the
Ooh,
round
yeah.
after, and MBL is just
MBL
shutting
is
it
just
down
prepared for
completely.
that.
I actually think that was one of MBL's best like smart moments in tournaments where he literally played the counter to Citeaux style, and Citeaux could not figure out what to even do against it. And I felt like MBL brought the same approach against you, and you just did something else, and MBL failed to adapt to a different opponent. But against Citeaux, I think MBL had the absolute perfect plan and the perfect way to neutralize Citeaux's early game.
Interesting.
Agreed.
As certain as the sun rise, Viper, every time we have a major tournament, some people will always complain about how boring the meta is. Interestingly enough for me, if you then ask them what exactly is the meta, nobody really will tell you, or everybody's going to give a different answer. That's what I've noticed. So I want to hear your guys' opinion on this. Is there a specific meta for Arabia right now? And if yes, do you feel like it's boring?
I think it goes back to we have so many different Arabia versions right now, right? The meta will be different on different Arabia versions.
Right. The thing is, this one specific version of Arabia is being played in the matchmaking system right now, so it's the version that everybody's playing.
I think it's a little bit. It's a little bit of a different version still, like an earlier version of the map.
Yeah, it's currently not the exact same one.
All right.
But yeah.
But yeah, I think still, first of all, meta is also heavily defined by balance, right? The balance of civs, right? Suddenly another civ is kicked up to the top. Like when Gojaras was introduced, they were super broken against most civs, and they're still very good, right? But I don't think there is a thing we can ever say like, oh, the meta is boring, because yes, there will be we go through phases as well, right? Suddenly people realize, oh, this style is actually really good, and suddenly a lot of people adapt that style and play that type of style. But then again, yes, on one map you might see a lot of similar games, which just makes sense, especially in a one map tournament, because you see hundreds of games on that same map.
Right.
It just makes sense. But what I think, why I never find these things boring, is because we have the civ drafts all the time, different civ matchups and such. And even though you see different or same units all the time, that's just the nature of the game, right? We don't have that many units to play with early game, for example. But still, I like it. It's variation. Like people always have to play different based on civ bonuses and such. And that, to me, adds variety. Because maybe it's from on the surface as a noob, no offense, you don't notice those small details in between civilizations, but it is still incredibly
right.
A lot
the
of depth.
Nuances at the very high level are very significant.
Yeah. So my take on that is very similar as well. Like if you are watching and you see scouts from both players, that doesn't mean that it's a mirror match. One could have went 18 pop, the other could be 20 pop with walls. It's the little details that really change.
So interesting.
It's a completely different strategy if you do something different. And so I feel like on the surface level, you can be like, oh, this Arabia is all scouts and archers.
Right, the viewer always sees scouts. So
okay,
interesting.
What is it going to be? If it's not scouts and archers, what else do you have in field age? Oh, he didn't go for a skirm spear rush. What am I watching? This is standard stuff.
Such a good point.
The same goes for team games though, right? Everyone's like, oh, it's boring. It's just scouts from pocket and archers from flank. I agree a little bit there. That is a bit stale in my opinion, on Arabia in particular. But still, we have so many different maps. There's so much variation still in 1v1 and team games. So personally, I don't think I can ever get bored of playing this game.
I 100% agree with that. I think there's so many different settings, and if you look at all the details, there's civ matchups and stuff. There's a ton of combinations that even we still haven't really gotten too familiar with. So. Yeah, and one more thing on the topic of meta for tournaments as well. It changes throughout the tournament. Like as we were talking about earlier,
at first the qualifiers there was something different.
It was like 2 militia drush, men at arms were very popular, and it slowly got phased into something else. So I would actually put it on the viewers. Next time there's a tournament, you can look for these little details and the changes in approach as tournaments go through.
Hera calling you out.
Well, I think Hera's calling casters out, especially.
I mean, I don't make it as a jab to anyone in particular.
No, totally understood. Totally understood.
It's something that you can look for, and you can definitely spot throughout tournaments and how the strategies are changing. And I think more specifically, you can you can see why players are choosing certain approaches and kind of look at the civ matchups and stuff, and not just look at what the units that are being played and stuff like that.
There were a lot of stomps in the tournament. Why do you guys think that's the case? I think my theory is that Arabia is a very execution-based map because everybody knows more or less how to play Arabia. It's by far the most played map in Age of Empires 2. And so when it comes to execution, if somebody happens to be a bit better in that one particular department, they're just going to win. On the other hand, it's also the fact that if you're having a bad day, it's just really hard to turn around if you can't, outdraft your opponent in terms of maps or pick a map your opponent does not like to play. I think that played a big role, I think.
So Arabia is obviously a more punishing map than, let's say, Migration or Team Islands, for example. But I think also with the way the drafting works, for example, it's like you draft your 5, 6, 7 civs, whatever, but the timing of when you pick that civ as well is completely random, right? I mean, you can obviously try some mind games here and there, but you don't know if I pick this civ, am I going to get this or this civ, right? You don't know that. Maybe you get countered sometimes. And, that could also snowball into a mentality in a set as well. You have a bad matchup. But then you also have play styles. We talked about earlier, MBL against Cital, for example, Leary against Cital. That was obviously heavy preparation, though. But it's really hard to say why exactly. But I think it's just most of the fact that the map is very unforgiving. And when you have very small skill differences, if you also have a bit bad luck in drafts, for example, I think it's not shocking that there are some stomps throughout the tournament.
Yeah, I think the one thing you mentioned there that is probably the reason I don't like the one map tournaments is the draft. The draft is cool when you pick civs and stuff. That's full strategy. But when it comes to actually picking them, as you said, when it's mixed maps, there's a lot more strategy in when you pick the civ, and you can like that's like mind gaming. You can you can pick 2 civs that are good on the map so your opponent doesn't know. But here it's one map, so you're just picking civs. You can even roll a dice if you want. Like it could be random, could be mind game, and so the matchups you get are pretty much random. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that makes the the sweeps possible to happen, because if I have 3 good civs, my opponent has 3 good civs, he lands 3 good matchups in a row. It is what it is. That puts me at a disadvantage. So I think combination with that, so I kind of agree in a way, but I'll also add the fact that you can't get a mental reset. If you lose on one map, you're playing the same one again. You can't change the style and kind of give yourself a bit more time.
I have a great example as well on like ways to prepare on different maps as well. Like we have during Grand Melee, for example, we had Frigid Lake. Persian became meta there after you guys started playing them a lot, and then like people know that Persians are meta, and they sometimes suddenly let the opponent have Persians because they know they will play Persian theirs, they know what Persians will do, and then you come up with a strategy to counter that, right? You cannot do that on one map tournaments.
Right.
And it's pretty much what he said as well. Like also like with the way the Arabia version was now, there's like variations within the variation. So like you could get if you're Burgundians, you pick Burgundians, like it's pure luck based if you get an easy to wall map or not. It's such a high risk civ pick as well. So it's like that also probably contributes. Like if you get Burgundians and you get a super easy wall map, it's very frustrating to play against because the timing. But those can also contribute.
So this was a very long tournament for today's standards. We had 32 players in the main event. I think there were about 20 days of competition, and that's excluding the qualifiers. While, for example, NEC4 was done in a week, right? The good thing about it is that it gave a lot of players outside the top 16 a chance, to play several games and to show themselves at the highest level. But the other half of it is that it was a little bit too long, and for viewers, who have to work, have a family, it's really hard to follow the tournament. So what do you guys think about it? Was the tournament too long? Is there something that we can do to kind of find a sweet spot between giving exposure to players but still making the tournament easy to follow for people who want to follow the tournament? I thought about making it best of 3 instead of best of 5, the group matches.
So I think for me, like from the player's perspective, it really wasn't that long because we only had like 1 match a week. So it was longer than like other tournaments for sure. Like, but at the end of the day, it is an S tier, and I'm cool with how the players' load was. But I think the issue might have been like for the length of the tournament, it might have just been because there was so many players. 32 players starting a group stage. That just leads to a lot of matches naturally. And we actually, or at least I played a role in trying to like persuade Memb in making their group stage from the start. And I guess we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I think it did give a lot of opportunity for like the lower lower seeded players to get more rounds in, more games in, and that led to the people who deserved a spot in the top 16 to get it. And I think there was a lot of games for sure. So maybe in the future, just somewhere cut some of it for the viewer experience, but from the player experience it was pretty good, and a lot of the games were added because of Mem's adaptation to feedback as well.
I think I have to point out as well that for me and Hera, it's easy to sit there and see like the game load was easy because we are full-time playing this game. There's a lot of players involved in this tournament that are working on the side. They have to like fit this into their lives that are super busy already before, so I can understand why some of those might have had issues, but obviously as players that are committed, the game load was easy. But I mean, you yourself.
I was really speaking from a viewer's perspective.
Exactly.
To me, it felt a little bit too long.
Okay.
That's simply, fair. When you have games, it was every day. I think every single day there were games. If you have a game on a Tuesday afternoon, I'm just not going to have any time to watch it.
Exactly, makes sense, right?
I might have if I know it's going to be on this one particular week and I can take the week off.
Right.
Or if I know that every weekend there are matches.
But you can't take 3 weeks off.
Right. I just cannot take 20 days off to watch a tournament. And a lot of people, if it's only 1 week, they might be able to do it. But when it's 20 days, it's almost impossible. Were you guys surprised by the strength of any particular civ in the tournament?
Civ?
Bengal? No. I personally found like always Khmer is a super good civ, but I felt like when I played Khmer on that meta, they just felt so good. It's obviously not a surprising strong civ, but they might have been the one that was like still like wow, that just feels so good.
Yes, that I agree with that, but I also kind of know that because not because of anything specific, just because I always try to play Khmer, so I was like well aware of how good they can be on like land maps. Like every tournament, I'm just practicing Khmer, and every tournament, I'm just impressed by them. So for me, Khmer was like really strong, but as I thought it would be. I think the civ that kind of like overperformed a little was Ethiopians for me. I think Ethiopians. I went in there thinking like Ethiopians are a bit one-dimensional with their archers. But it felt like it didn't even matter because the meta is so fast-paced that if I can just get the advantage, then it's cool. And I had like camels, I had the siege push that can come through. So I had just the right amount of options with that civ, and it felt like that civ was just really good. Like I think it's almost on par with like Portuguese and stuff if they line up. And I think it's one of the few that could go up with those S tier civs.
Okay.
Yeah. Is it fair to say that Gambazons and the whole infantry overhaul played no role in the tournament?
I mean, like initially when the Gambazons and everything was introduced, it was fun to play around on ladder and be like, I mean, sometimes it worked out, sometimes not. I had great success even against better civs in quotes when I did Gambazons sometimes, but it's ladder, right? There's nothing at stake. But once the tournament is there and you're playing, like suddenly your life is on the stake in the tournament, you probably don't want to take the risk of like going Gambazons, long swords.
It's also not that discovered, so we're not really sure how strong it is. And if you, like you said, if you risk that in a tournament game and it just doesn't work out as you thought it would, then the whole game is ruined. So I do think Gambazons is a great addition for late game. Like late game is completely different, and I think we might see that as we play maybe more diverse maps or more slower paced maps. Champions are now very strong in late game, versus like trash and skirms and stuff. But the whole like, we're going to see longswords again because Gambazons is there, it just doesn't work. And I think it's a great addition still. It just wasn't the tournament for it.
Okay.
I think infantry has a place right now, which is like either the drush, or you have early feudal age timing, maybe early castle age timing, and otherwise you should only see them in like post-imp. Yeah. I don't think they're good in any other phase in the game.
Right.
On Arabia.
Arabia.
Yeah, specifically.
Important point. Hera, one of my favorite moments for the tournament has got to be that one moment where you arrive at the watch party in Argentina. Everybody standing up, everybody clapping for you. What an amazing moment. When and why did you decide to organize this watch party?
Okay, so first of all, that was absolutely amazing moment, first of all. But as far as organization, I actually didn't do I did nothing to organize that. It was actually my wife who was taking a good part of that.
Sitting right there.
Yeah, and one of her friends who works in esports in Argentina as well. And they honestly, props to them, they tanked it in like 2-3 days. They organized the whole thing. The tickets sold in like 24 hours. And so, big 400,
I believe.
I think 300 to 400 people. And they did the whole thing. All it was just show up pretty much. But I love the idea from the start. I was like, that sounds sick. If you guys can do that, that's great. It was a raging success.
Did they know about the Age of Empires 2 scene?
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about like doing something in Argentina for a while now. And the scene there is absolutely amazing. Like I want to really...
that was very clearly the case.
There's first of all a lot of people that want to support Age of Empires and that are passionate about it. But not only that, the people that come as well are like very energized. You know what I mean? They come and it's like they're watching a sporting event. They really bring that energy, and that's something that players like. I wish what I felt on that stage walking in and all that stuff. I wish that all of us can feel that in a LAN event setting, and so with big things at stake with that energy. So
speaking of LAN, Hera, after the watch party, is the next step for you to organize a LAN tournament in Argentina?
Yeah, like here's the thing, we've been thinking about it for a while, and
are we going to reveal anything here?
I unfortunately don't have anything to reveal right now, but it's something that we would love to do in maybe late 2023 or 2024 when the time is right. We don't really have any set date right now, but it's definitely something I'd like to see happen. I think South America plays a big role in general with other esports, like the CSGO major in Brazil not too long ago. I think there was a Dota major in Peru. And in general, it's just a hub for esports. And the thing about South America is like you can host in Argentina. Guys from Brazil will come. Guys from Paraguay, Uruguay will come. Guys from all over the place will come. And if you just announce it in due time, I'm sure you can get like 3-4K people in a good in a stadium or
Age of Empires.
Yeah. Trust me, that's the low ballpark as well.
Amazing.
So I would love to see something like that happen.
Yeah. Are you already in talks with Microsoft about potentially?
I don't know how much I can say because of like the NDA and stuff.
No, just like are you talking about
it? I'm trying to get them on board, and we're trying to get them on board.
But the fact is that there's an ADA. pretty much tell us.
Well, the thing is,
you're in
Of course,
talks with
but still, it's like,
Microsoft.
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, sorry, go
But
ahead.
the thing is, nothing's come from that
Yeah,
yet,
yeah.
and
No.
we're actually. It feels like because we're trying to innovate and do something new, and I'm not a tournament host per se.
Right.
There's been some friction in the discussions. It's been like it's not something that I can say guaranteed. You know, I've done it before. It's gonna be the same again. But we're so sure it's gonna be a success that we just need like a leap of faith from Microsoft now.
Right.
And just trust us with this, and we'll have the right guys take care of it. So I'm hoping that we can get them on the same page and we can do something big. And honestly, it might just be a greater effort. Like maybe we'll have to talk with some other people and get more people involved to make it happen. Cause
we have a great community around.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe someone watching wants to get involved. You never know, right?
Wink, wink.
And I think like other streamers or tournament hosts we can just do a collaboration and just make it happen. Because at the end of the day, I don't even want it for any particular reason other than to get all the players to experience that feeling and all the fans in South America to be able to, show that support and bring that energy.
He just wants another tournament to win.
We've had a lot of unthinkable things in Age of Empires 2, but an arena with 3,000, 4,000 players, 4,000 people watching, I don't think we've had that just yet.
I mean, there's so many Age of Empires fans over the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's just things just has to be announced well ahead of time, so people have time to plan, right? I could easily see, like even in Red Bull tournaments, right? We've seen people come from Australia, from America.
Yeah, crazy.
People come from all over the world, as long as they know well ahead of time, so they can plan around.
It's an older player base. It's people with means, people who work, right? So they can travel if they know ahead of time. All right. So I keep hearing, Hera, you just said, I think it was after NEC 4 and also after KotD 5, you said your team Aftermath is still looking for a sponsor. Has there been any movement in that direction?
Yeah, there's been. So we had one person approach us right after NEC. And he was very helpful. He helped us get a good start with with the sponsorship, and he didn't want to get too involved himself, but he wanted to help us with any means that we needed, and so it definitely gave us a good boost for the team. And we had someone else approach us as well, and it was looking really promising. We were in talks for like a month with this guy, but and there was big promises being made. We were actually very excited. We made all these plans, but unfortunately in the end, I don't even know what happened, but it turns out it just wasn't legit. I don't even know.
It's a problem in esports,
Yeah.
right? So many companies.
It's also an issue when you say you were in talks with this guy. Like it's just a random guy, like
yeah,
approach you and be like,
pretty much. Yeah, it was just it wasn't a known figure, it wasn't a brand, and so it was something that we just had to trust. But also the other guy that was very helpful. It was just the guy as well. So one of them worked, one of them helped a lot, and big thanks to that guy as well for helping us out. I keep saying that guy, but just to keep them anonymous. The second person, there was a lot of plans being made, a lot of big promises, and it completely fell flat. And it was a big time waste, and we got our hopes pretty high up there because we're not just looking for we don't care for the extra salary. We want to get the sponsorship to build something. We want to hire some people to start maybe a YouTube channel, maybe some socials for our team. And maybe boot camps, content, that kind of stuff. That's what we want to invest into.
It's very hard to do that on your own. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. We're obviously slowly doing stuff. I'm slowly, whenever I can, getting something for my setup. We did organize a boot camp before NEC 4 as well. That came out of our pockets. That was several thousand. It's not cheap. But it's the kind of thing that just pushes the team forward.
It's good to know you're being approached. I'm happy to know that actually.
The only issue is that you're not being approached by organizations, right?
Yes. Yeah.
The issue I see with, in general, sponsors in Age of Empires, we're very fortunate with Game Legion coming into the scene. They've been helpful not only for us as a team and players, but also for the scene in general. But the issue is what is the benefit for an organization to come into Age of Empires, right?
Yes.
With Aftermath, for us, we are most of us are hybrid streamers and players, right? With Aftermath, it's sure, MBL is going full time now. He's streaming a lot. You're streaming a lot with good viewer numbers. But I haven't Hart. I've seen him stream a fair bit recently, but it's his demographic is not necessarily appealing to sponsors. I'm not sure if the same goes for Nico. Leary never streams. It's where's the appeal outside of do anyone want to come in and be oh yeah, let's pay Leary money to play these tournaments that don't have 100,000 viewers, right?
Yeah.
If you get what I mean.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand. I think that there's two sides of it. It's on one hand, it's not nearly as big or as appealing as the big stuff.
Yeah.
And we don't have exactly the best setup in terms of the lineup. As far as everyone streams full time, there's content all over the place. However, we do have a few things on our side that I think is appealing to sponsors. Like we have youth. We have a lot of guys that are.
Hey, what do you?
Nothing against the GLT.
Okay.
But I think.
This is gonna be a clip for the show.
First
Please,
thing he mentions is youth.
That's what we have that you guys don't. But it's just like, it's a long-term investment. We have guys that will be playing for 5-10 years, God willing, if nothing happens. We're committed, we're dedicated, and I think that's a big selling point. And I think the second thing is like, we can always adapt to what the needs are from these guys. Like Leary doesn't stream currently, and it's just something that for him he rather spends his time elsewhere. But if you have someone, no, he actually that's such a, like the Dota thing is such a thing of the past.
It's outdated.
I still get people comments like, "Oh, Leary should have focused instead of playing Dota." It's like he quit for like 3 years now. Like, he doesn't play that anymore.
Is he playing anything else though instead?
I think he's just more into real life. Like he's got like a current job that he really enjoys. I don't want to speak too much on his behalf, but he's cool. Like he does a lot of things like IRL. Cool. He's just
good for him,
trying things out, and he loves Age of Empires and he loves gaming. And he loves especially the tournaments and stuff. And it's just that streaming is a big time investment, and he's just not ready for that for sure. Currently. Right. But it's the kind of thing
if
that
there
like
were something that pushes him to do it.
Should there be something?
Youth.
The youth is the factor here. Should something come along, I'm sure we're one conversation away from getting him to commit a bit more.
Right.
But I think it's the kind of thing where I hope some opportunity comes our way, because I'd personally love that opportunity for myself and for my teammates, and I think it's the way to push the scene forward. I think the more we have GL now, which I'm actually very grateful for GL coming in as well, because that's a lot of exposure.
Yeah, it helps everybody in the scene.
Exactly, And I think getting another team in there helps a lot with that rivalry vibe.
For sure.
And it's good, healthy competition. And I think that would actually be great for the scene.
All right.
We already have like White Wolf Pals would be probably the other professional team. Like, it's not professional either, but it's like they have backing from the whole Chinese community pretty much. So
and look what they're doing. They're hosting like a ton of good show matches. Like I have a lot of respect for like the Chinese community and what they're doing.
Recently finished.
And that's something that as players I really look forward to. Anytime they host an event, I know that they're professional about it. It's well communicated. And I think that's just great for the scene, So big respect to them.
Need more of those.
Well, we're all cheering for new people to get involved.
For sure. Absolutely. All right, my friends. The final of KotD 5 hit a peak of 39,000 live viewers across all platforms, which is pretty much on par with NEC 4 and with KotD 4. NEC 4 had a peak of 43,000 live viewers, and KotD 4 41,000 live viewers, so pretty similar. And that worries me a little bit, and I'll explain why. We don't talk about this a lot in the competitive scene, but I heard from a few folks at Microsoft that the release of the Xbox version was a major success for the game. And I mean the kind of success that really surprised a lot of people over there. We don't have absolute numbers on this. Microsoft, for whatever reason, never publishes numbers. But we do know that now, 23 years after the release of Age of Empires 2, we've set a new all-time record for people playing the game, which is pretty amazing, right? Despite having the biggest player base we've ever had in the game, viewership on Twitch, which is very closely related to the competitive scene, is down, I believe, roughly 10% from last year, which is not a huge deal, but it's still down. And that means we haven't been able to get all these new players that have now joined the community to actually watch professional Age of Empires 2. And so my worry here is that some guy at Microsoft looks at these numbers, and I know they're looking, and they're going to go like, well, our game is growing, but the audience for our tournaments is not. So we might as well stop funding tournaments. And that would be pretty bad, right? So what are we doing wrong? How can we get all those new players that have just arrived to the scene to actually be interested in professional Age of Empires 2?
So I would say, like, first of all, like, I don't think Xbox players necessarily go to Twitch to watch a stream, right? Console gaming in general is more like you just get home, you chill on the couch a bit, play some console. You don't necessarily watch Twitch because you're a console gamer, right? And I think a lot of people that bought the Xbox version are probably people that played Age of Empires in the past at some point and was like, or they've heard like, oh, this is a RTS game that is a classic, let's try it, So I don't necessarily think that's the audience that would necessarily migrate to Twitch. So I wouldn't necessarily be worried that just because the player base is now higher than ever, that the viewership isn't following that route, so to say. And I mean, we also had like me and T90 are not on Twitch anymore. I know it's last year. We weren't there last year.
It's an important clarification. So it's 10% down from last year, and both you and T90 were not there anymore.
But also, I think if we were there, the Twitch numbers would have still potentially steadily maybe increased, right? And not necessarily dropped. Hard to say, obviously, but you never know.
Okay. That's a fair point. I like that point. But the thing is, when you're talking about this massive influx of players, and from what I've heard, it really is a massive influx of players, you would expect a certain percentage of those folks to start tuning in to competitive Age of Empires. Because, I mean, you're just curious, right? You play a game, even if you know the game, how do the best people in the world play this game, right?
I think the percentage that you'd expect to come over from Xbox to like Twitch streams and stuff should actually be a pretty small number, because in general console gaming isn't really like that linked to Twitch in general, like streaming, from what I know. And I wouldn't expect Xbox players specifically to venture to Twitch on their own. However, on that note, I do feel like there is a way to like bring more people in from like console gaming or even just like casual campaign
Let's hear it. Yeah.
Gaming onto like the professional scene. And it really just has to do with like the main menu of Age of Empires. So what you can do is like every time there's an event, like link the host's stream, make it clear that there's an event that's happening on the main menu as you open the game.
That's definitely been done for NEC4. I'm not sure about KotD.
It's not very clear. Like maybe you have one pop up once.
Yeah, it should pop up every time you open the game, but not in an invasive way. It should be like on the front, page somewhere. You have a lot of space on that right side that you can easily integrate it and make it seem like it's something that you'd want to click. Another idea could be like on the top 100 leaderboards for the players, you can link their stream right next to the leaderboard. So you see not just the rank 1, you see where he streams. And that just gets people who naturally navigate the platform to go towards Twitch. So I think with that formula, you kind of help the day-to-day streamers, and you also help the big tournaments. And I think in general, over time, that would bring a lot of people from casual gaming to competitive.
Sorry, I'm just imagining the leaderboard, and I see MBL 1, MBL 2, and all the top
all
10
the
is
same link.
MBL's Twitch link.
First it's like his Twitch link, then it's Instagram, or whatever you want. Yeah. Then it rewards you for having more accounts. So maybe that's an angle.
What I think some people could do better, what we think we could do better as a community is to follow both you guys' example and also T90's example, which is try to tap into different communities around Age of Empires 2. You do a lot of coaching with a lot of low-level players, right? You play the campaigns, which is, we know a large portion of the player base in Age of Empires 2 likes to play the campaigns only and never even tried. So if they see the Viper is playing this, they watch all the other videos that Viper has made as well, they might be interested. T90, of course, community games,
Low Elo
Legends. I think a lot of streamers are kind of happy with the kind of content that they're doing, and they stick to one niche, to one specific thing, playing ranked games or playing tournament games, and don't really expand. That's the feeling that I have, and something that I would kind of wish that a lot of people would try to do more.
That's you can start with that one. That's a difficult one.
I just personally think it's what you need to be doing something you enjoy as well, right?
For sure.
You can't have someone is like
if you don't like it,
exactly. I feel like coaching is not that exciting. I feel like coaching an 1800, 1900 could be fun for me, but I personally don't think I would find enjoyment in coaching a 1000 ELO player, right? Because there will be so many basic flaws in the gameplay. There will be like probably a 2-3 month journey to even get the level increased a little bit. Now, of course, you can do videos and such that are to the general masses, but personally for me, I don't think I would enjoy that. But like campaign is something I want to experience the campaigns myself, so I enjoy it. So it's easy for me to do that. But like, I think the general competitive player in Age of Empires and streamer, they just want to play competitive games, right? So they're not necessarily thinking about that broader appeal of like, I want to reach.
And it's not their job, right? They do what they want to do, and that's totally fair. But I think that might be one of the reasons we're not tapping into all this huge player base that has just arrived.
Yeah, it could definitely be. I think if someone also played on Xbox, like a big streamer played on Xbox, I think that could be a huge start as well. Like I got a lot of asks.
Step up, man.
The thing about Dave is that I think from what I heard, he didn't really like the Xbox UI compared to the thing he had before.
Really?
I think the emulator was just easier for him to function. So
customize.
Yeah, exactly. He was customizing how he likes it and stuff. So, I think could be a lot of things to get those guys a bit more engaged, but it could just be a matter of time. Just over time they might just venture. And usually, like for me, I came in from a campaign as well. So usually it just takes one link to get you to that right spot. It opens up a whole new world. I clicked a Zero Empires campaign video like 9 or 10 years ago, and I became a top player years after that. So it's one link that opens a whole new world. And I think that's the kind of thing that happens over time.
All right, so folks, before we wrap up the discussion around KotD 5, I personally would just like to give a huge shout out to Memb. another incredibly well-run tournament, another couple of months of amazing commitment and dedication to the game. I don't know, Mem is just an incredibly hardworking individual, and I think we're very lucky to have him in the community.
I think there's not been a single Mem TV event that has not delivered. Like, I can't think of a single one.
Yeah,
where
we
I've come
talked
out of
about it last time, right?
Exactly.
Mem always delivers somehow.
But like the core of it is the hard work. Obviously, as the admin team as well, Roro Rimbo and Krasini. They just like the fact that
Bogdan, he's the editor, video editor.
Yeah.
But the fact that like he's able to run a 3-week tournament with games every day, and like players showed up on time with cameras and all that stuff. 5 years ago,
sounds so easy, right?
5 years ago,
It's
unthinkable.
so hard to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well spoken, Hera.
I agree. Big shout out to those guys. I really enjoyed the tournament though, for real.
It was very easy as a player as well. Like the admins were always on top of things. If you had a question, like everything got sorted really fast as well. So
There was like zero issues.
Yeah.
It was great. Like really,
And we
really
had
well run.
patch release in the middle of the tournament. Like
I feel like it was the perfect tournament to have issues because of everything that came up, but they managed to
Yeah.
really like keep everyone on track. The communication was great, and big props to them for real.
Awesome. All right, so Nations Cup is next. And to those of you who still haven't watched the final, it was only a couple of days ago.
spoiler alert.
Be warned, there will be spoilers ahead. Hera, another final for you, but this one you actually lost against China, Team China. What happened there?
So that was actually, first of all, I just want to say I'm really, really proud of Team Canada. These guys are like players that have been around for a long time, but they took it extremely seriously. I saw Mentalist and Chris practicing literally daily, getting into the top shape. We had Slam putting in the work. He was always like showing up to the drafts a bit early, talking it out.
Wow.
And we just had we didn't have like the all-star team in terms of all the players in top shape, but we got there over like the course of a few weeks. So yeah, just big respect to my teammates there for really stepping up. And as far as the finals goes, we beat China in the double earlier in the
Winner
tournament.
bracket.
And then this time we had an extra point. So it was looking pretty good for us, looking promising. But China just showed up ready to play, and big congratulations to them.
It's almost like they had like a mini tournament to prepare for the finals.
I know. They really took it seriously. That mini tournament helped them figure out so many strategies, and I felt the difference in skill and preparation from them because of that mini tournament. But that
Feel free to finish your answer and then do talk about it, what exactly the tournament was.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. But yeah, that mini tournament as well. It just goes to show that like preparation, practice definitely helps a lot for these tournaments. And big congratulations to China, proving that they're the number one team, national team
when
in
it
the world
comes
right
to
now.
team games, they're so good, right?
Yeah.
Tim kind of coming back from the.
He didn't play the one he mentioned, by the way, $4,000 Dojo Invitational tournament. It was a mini tournament with the top 4 teams in the game.
Mhm.
AM won that one in the end. We had 3 teams on the same score, though. I think we were still the rightful winners because we won a set with Nilly.
That's crazy, actually.
The funny thing is, White Wolf House got last place in that one,
Yes.
and they won Nations Cup. But I think what really helped them in that tournament is that they suddenly got the playstyles of Aftermath combined. They got GL and Suomi. Suomi was also in Nations Cup, but like
Interesting. A lot of different strategies.
suddenly like GL gets some influence on the strategies. Aftermath gets influence on the strategies, and I think that also helped them a lot. But still. On Nations Cup, I think Canada, like what I really enjoyed was listening to, I watched your stream a little bit, and it was like listening to the communication between you guys. It was always like, if you think of it, if I watch them when Aftermath is playing, it's idiot, like, all that stuff. But everything was so respectful, like everyone working towards the same goal. They'll be like, okay, we're in this situation, what do we do now? Like, it's always like, just like, if this puts you in a carry position, then do that. Everyone is just like on the same page, working towards the same goal, and it was just so nice to listen to. Like, it was just, that's how communication should be if you're serious about a tournament, in my opinion.
Yeah, I also was. It made it so much more enjoyable for me being with guys that are just zero blaming, zero ego. Everyone just wants to win and make everyone feel good about the games and everything like that. And even when things went wrong, like even in the finals, I felt like we left and we were obviously disappointed and a bit upset, but no one was hurt, no one was blaming, and it was just like the perfect team atmosphere, to be honest. And if I can give like a special shout out to one of the team members, I think Chris overperformed the entire tournament. I think everyone played well, to be honest, but I think Chris really like he showed.
Chris, one of the biggest legends in Age of Empires.
He showed why that tournament. He showed his worth. Like it was really good performance all around from him. But as I said, everyone played really well in that.
So was it always you, Slam, Chris, and Menelus? Was that the team throughout the whole tournament?
We had some rounds where I was like traveling for NAC and like some early rounds.
Wasn't Dave in there?
Dave was there. He was our caster. He was caster and mental coach. One of my favorite parts of the Nations Cup is Dave coming in between voice chats, just either sharing the love and the hype with us, or if
Amazing.
something went wrong, he'd be like, "Yo, like, don't worry about it, guys." Like a couple things like that, but it was just a good game. Just focus on the next one.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was sick. Like, and then like after we win, we'd have Dave on voice as well, hyping us all up. He's
I missed those
excited.
parts. Okay.
And I think the viewers, I obviously couldn't watch them playing, but the viewers really enjoyed Dave's biased commentary as well. I did go back and watch some of it myself, and I really enjoyed that actually. Like
Nice.
someone cheering, but also casting. It was a good vibe.
Yeah, he was really unabashedly pro Canadian.
Yeah.
It is
He's
Canada.
on the team. He's on the roster. Yeah. It was just a really fun event in general.
Yeah, but if you don't mind, talk specifically about the final. What did you think went wrong for you as a team there?
Yeah, I mean, okay, first of all, I feel like I really let the team down that day. To be honest, I don't know what it was, but I felt like I was just underperforming slightly every game. I just couldn't quite get my feel, and I feel like I would have liked to perform better myself. So I feel like I did let the team down a little. And for me personally, I think the migration game kind of broke me like physically because
Amazing game. You
I
guys
don't
were
know.
ahead. You guys were ahead.
yeah, I don't know if you Viper experienced this as well, but like sometimes in a set when you play a long game, specifically a long game, and like you're winning or it's really close and then you lose it in the end, it's very hard to recover from that mentally and physically. Like after that game, I'd given it everything. I was tired and I was like drained. I still obviously wanted to win. I didn't throw in the towel.
Right.
And we actually won a game after that, so we obviously still were like still in it. But I was extremely tired after that, and I felt like
That was the first game, right?
Second.
no,
Was
it
it
was,
second
I
game?
think it was the
Okay,
second,
okay.
yeah, or third even. But
Okay.
yeah.
Was that deep? Yeah.
Well, it was the second, but actually the third because you were started
true.
1-0 ahead,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So-
So that put us down 2-1, and yeah, like I said, we did manage to win after that a game, but yeah, it wasn't
I guess
enough.
it's also if it was like your home map and you feel like you have a good strategy for it,
Right.
and then things don't work
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a big turning point. So
I
Yeah.
wanted to say, like on your saying that you felt like you underperformed. I think the maps make it also hard to be consistent because there's so many nomad starts and all that stuff, and including the drafts as well. It's hard to always be like consistently performing compared to if you're like Arabia Pocket.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. And a lot of the circumstances just kind of took me out of the game early, and it just felt like I couldn't have as much impact as I wanted to. But it's not, it's not to take away credit from China, of course. I think China showed a different level that finals. We played them earlier. It went our way, but they stepped it up. And big thank you to the people who organized it and who even
Amazing effort.
the community who funded
Yeah.
it as well. So big
Yeah.
thank you to you guys.
Almost $20,000, if I'm
Yeah.
not
Sick.
mistaken, right?
Like all
Fully
community
community
funded,
funded.
right?
Oh, that's
Amazing.
insane.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Incredible.
I think
Yeah.
$18,500.
Yeah.
Viper, last episode we talked a lot about the Return of Rome DLC,
Yeah.
which has now been released. I did end up buying it because I want to support the game, but since I'm not really interested in Age of Empires 1 and the Romans are not yet available for ranked multiplayer, the DLC has offered me basically nothing. I did see you try it a little bit with your teammates. So what's your assessment?
So Return of Rome, like both for me is like I do enjoy the AoE1 part as well. Me, Tato, and Doubt have some fun there. And yeah, but I mean, like the game was still released in a state where it still felt like they don't really do quality testing sometimes, which is a bit sad. But they have recently fixed the major issues with the Return of Rome AoE1 part, which was like when you did a ranked game. First of all, I'm a bit disappointed because you cannot queue up for ranked in AoE1.
There's no ranked
That's what
queue.
I was looking forward to, like just jumping on and playing there. But
Mhm.
so you have to host a lobby, select ranked, that's et cetera, et cetera. But that's fine. It's kind of how we did it in the past anyway.
Mhm.
So, but the issue was that when you did that initially on release, you started with low resource, for example. So you wouldn't have the game settings that are intended for multiplayer. So I think everyone that jumped in on day one and wanted to play ranked, they probably got the complete wrong impression of how the game is supposed to be played ranked.
Mhm.
So that's a bit like if you give that first impression to people in the game, they might just turn them off completely. Those are the things that just cannot go wrong. And I think AoE4 is a bit compared to that. Like they launched the game without ladder or anything, so the whole impression of the game just goes down the drain. I hope that was not as extreme in this regard because the game is still a lot of fun. I have loved experiencing AoE1 again in the AoE2 engine. Super fun. And like for example, me, Tato, and Doubt are going to play a little 2v2 tournament as well in this game.
Cool.
So like for me, still very positive and excited about it. But still, it's always that grain of salt based on the issues that they've launched the game with, and some of that carried over to AoE2 as well, where it like switch back and forth between the games. The hotkeys will be messed. The user interface, some of the mods don't work, and things like that. So, yeah, it's. But I feel like every patch these days, every DLC is like a lot of positives, but there's also those kind of sad moments as well.
If I'm not mistaken, that's one of the things that was missing from Age of Empires 1 DE, and that a lot of people complained about. There was no ranked matchmaking, so I was really hoping. I just don't know if the base is big enough. I think that might be one of the concerns, right?
Yeah.
It takes a lot of resources to get a matchmaking going. They probably don't feel like they have the player base for that.
And they wanted to bring the whole Vietnamese community probably over to here, right?
As far as I can see, hasn't really so far worked out a lot. Have you given it a try, Hera?
Excuse me. I actually played a tournament in Rise of Rome versus Doubts, round 1, and I
wait. Rise of Rome back.
Return of Rome.
No,
sorry,
Return of
yeah.
Rome. Oh, okay.
On the new.
They did a launch tournament the weekend of release.
Right, because Rise of Rome was the first expansion
one, yeah.
for Age of Empires 1, so I was thinking I played them like 20 years ago.
20 years back now. So yeah, I did play a tournament against them. I thought I was signing up for AoE2 actually. I thought we were gonna play the new Romans. I found that like the day before, but I actually did prepare. I found like a strategy called like the Bone Rush or something, where you send the villas forward. So
the bone rush?
Yeah,
because they hit with a bone, right?
Yeah.
All right.
So
okay.
I did have like a cheese prepared, but in general, like he was actually like decent at the game, pretty good, and I was a complete noob. So I obviously got stomped, but it was pretty fun. I can see why the game is fun to play and could have appeal. So I'm personally not really invested into it. Probably won't play that much more, but I wish those who enjoy it have the best of time.
For sure. You just mentioned bugs, Viper, and unfortunately, as it tends to be the case, whenever a new DLC, not only in Age of Empires 1, Age of Empires 2, whenever a new DLC is released, a good number of bugs seem to just make their way into the game. And this is totally subjective, of course, but it does feel to me like this time the criticism from the community has been a bit louder than usual. And I think that's especially because some of the older bugs have remained unaddressed for a very long time. So you got folks like T90 has been very vocal about it on Twitter. Hera even went as far as typing a slightly passive-aggressive comment during a game in KotD V. I think it was against Yo.
Oh, yeah.
Said something, by the way, pathing in $80,000 tournament. So something along those lines.
By the way, even against you, I had like 2 moments when my scouts literally hit, the attack animation sounded, and there was no damage. So like against Yo, against Viper, like we're talking like this is life-changing amounts of money, situations, and obviously, that can't happen. That absolutely cannot happen.
Yeah.
So
Monk standing still, not moving.
oh my god,
that
versus
happened.
MBL. I was watching that. I was like, oh my god, I feel so bad right now.
And MBL took advantage of it.
I know. You're like, I can't move. It's like, oh, okay,
Well,
it's my time.
Too bad.
It's maybe just instinct or just reflexes as well, right?
Everyone
It's
could
real.
have, like, even if you know it, you're just like in the mode, right? So
Right.
I'm not blaming MBL for it, but because I won. But
Okay, so all things considered, how would you rate the current state of the game?
for me, the balance is the best it's ever been. Gameplay, bugs, glitches, worst it's been in a long time as well. So it's like there's a high and there's a low. Like I love the devs and everything they're doing for the game and all the hard work they're putting in. And I know that they're still working with spaghetti code from 20 years ago. I understand that when they touch something else breaks, it happens. But I just wish that they still, actually I saw on Twitter the other day, they're looking for more people for quality assurance.
Yeah, there's a new job opening
Exactly.
or several maybe.
So I think they're taking the right steps to fix this, because sometimes it just feels like they've released a patch and it hasn't been tested, right?
Yeah.
And that's the unfortunate part.
Yeah, so like the thing with the whole like testing and stuff, I think like they do a good job of like addressing the issues, but then some of the issues, like some of like the new bugs that come up, one game of testing will find like most of them.
Yeah, if we play 1v1 one game,
time,
we would find like 7 or 8 of these bugs.
Exactly. So I think like the tester, and I'm actually glad they took that step. I think just getting a tester or two on the team, even if you just like get them in to do some work every patch, I think that's going to be a huge step forward in finding these bugs. And just don't put the patch out, just delay the patch a week. No one's going to complain about that. Just make sure when it comes out, it's playable so people get excited about it rather than dread the patch.
But don't we have balance testers? Don't those guys also kind of play test the game? Because we know about, you told me about FH.
Yeah, they have a lot of balance testers, right? But I'm not sure if they are necessarily grinding games on the public update patch preview or whatever.
Right,
but
just
I mean, we have the public update patch preview thing all the time, but it's like no one is feeling motivated to go there and like, oh yeah, let me go and test the games for them.
Yeah, exactly. That's a whole job. You can't expect the players to do it like consistently. I think I've done it a couple times when on the pub for like just to check something out, but not to like play games there.
So what I think might be happening here, and I have no numbers for this, of course, but whenever I talk to folks who either worked or still work for Microsoft, one thing I keep hearing about is how small the competitive player base is compared to the rest of the player base. And that seems to be true about a lot of RTS games. Even after very successful tournaments like Red Bull 5 or Red Bull Legacy, if you look at the Steam charts, the number of people playing the game does not go up after one of these big tournaments occurs. So these tournaments are not leading, to any massive increase in sales or anything. So when I think about pathing, I always wondered how many people are actually bothered by it. I know pros are bothered by it. It decides games for you guys. Yeah. But if you're just someone who only plays campaigns and likes to play a chill game against the AI or with your son, with your wife, I'm not sure you're really playing the game and thinking, well, pathing is totally broken. So as far as what I think is happening here, I'm not trying to defend it. I want devs to fix pathing. Please fix Microsoft, please. But how many people are really being bothered by this? And Microsoft looks at this and they see, it takes a lot of resources to fix something like pathing. It's very complicated. We've known this. And so they invest those resources into fixing stuff that most people actually care about, be it, I don't know, one campaign mission that it's now bugged or something. That's something that I always fix very fast, I've noticed. Have any thoughts on that?
I would say that yes, the competitive scene is obviously very 0.1% of the community, right? But how many people watch our streams? How many people watch the tournaments, right? How many of those get the impressions that we are getting? They see what we're seeing. They experience what we're experiencing through us. So there's still thousands and thousands of people that see these things, and that's still negative for the game. Whether those people launch up the game later and play it and don't experience those bugs, I don't think that's necessarily irrelevant. It's still when you have these types of core issues that can really impact the enjoyment of a game. And I'm sure people, even at a 1200 elo, they will have moments in the game suddenly they cannot move their monks, right? That would be infuriating.
Well, that's a pretty
it's a pretty severe bug,
one,
right?
Yeah.
But the pathing itself, of course, not everyone is going to experience it. I also have game where the pathing feel completely fine the whole game.
Yeah.
But then the next game, it's what is this, So it comes and goes, right? Exactly. That's the thing. If they're when we play the game, before any of the new development of the game happened, we knew there were so many bugs and glitches and issues in the game, but they were consistent. We knew what to expect, so we could play with that. Now it's we don't really know what to expect at all times. And that's probably the most frustrating part about it. But I don't want to be too negative about this because it's still the game has come so long in these last 10 years. It's I'm still so grateful for everything, but people are greedy, they want more.
Well, you only complain about the things you love, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Hera,
the thing is Viper, you come from literally the dark ages.
Yeah, exactly.
He's seen some stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we've seen some shit in the past when it comes to Age of Empires.
Yeah, so I think you actually were very measured in how you went about that. Just on the topic of players converting from watching a tournament to then buying the game. Yeah. I think that's really a long-term thing. I think looking at that metric after one tournament doesn't make sense. I don't know who watches the tournaments and then thinks right away I'm going to get that game.
Yeah.
Right, but it's a general trend. It's a general trend, just to be clear.
Yeah.
You never see a rise, sharp rise.
But I would say having a healthy competitive scene leads to long-term success. Yeah. And I think that's the key thing.
Yeah, I think it's publicity. It's publicity for the game. Right?
But also imagine there was no tournaments whatsoever.
Yeah.
Probably the numbers will go down, right?
Eventually, yeah.
The fact that we have tournaments frequently is probably helping maintain that steady.
Yeah, there are all these people leaving.
It's basically a constant advertisement for the game because no one will hear about Age of Empires if there's no streamers or tournaments, except if they launch an official video or a new thing that entices people. But the streams, it's a constant advertisement for the game, and I think that's 100% over the years. Viper's attracted new players, and those players bought the game 100%.
Same thing as you, for sure. All right, so before we move on to the Q&A section, we still would like to talk about the upcoming tournaments in the Age of Empires scene.
So there's not too much on the agenda right now that is public information to my knowledge, but we have the Delicious World, which is coming up. By the way, the GL is going to be Seed 1 there, just pointing that out, because there was a, okay. Delicious World should start in July, I believe, and finishes also in July.
Qualifiers in June, if I'm not mistaken.
Towards the end of July, that one should finish. That's a 3v3 tournament coming up, which should be a lot of fun. Always these crazy, messy maps. The Pizza Arena, Peace map. I love that map. It's so fun. It's also so stupid, but we also have Massive Arena, which has kicked off already. Main event started this week, I believe. I personally am playing a match in 4 hours from now. So those are the two things that are coming up in particular. I'm not sure if there's anything else that there's always smaller tournaments going on nonstop, but we're kind of trying to dedicate our attention to the more S tier events at this podcast.
For sure. So let's move on to the Q&A section of the show. I love this one. So Andy demands Masmorra teach Viper how to say the name of the Portuguese unique building correctly. Gladly, my friend.
Can I try first?
Let's hear it. No, it's for you.
Fatoria.
That's pretty bad.
Fatoria.
No, that's your second guess. What about you, Hera? You want to give it a try?
I'll take a second guess. Fatoria.
That's pretty good. So, okay, first thing, the stress is on Fatoria.
Fatoria.
Not too bad. The R is still awful, but
Wait, how's the R? How's the R?
Well, it's a very Portuguese R. Fatoria. It's like with
Fatoria.
yeah.
It's like Barcelona in Spanish. It feels like weird.
Yeah,
to
it's a
say
rolled
that.
R. It's a rolled R.
Fatoria.
Okay, you
Okay.
gave your best. I'll rate it. I don't know.
Cool.
10 out of 2 out of 10 or something.
7 out of 10. You missed an opportunity here.
I was thinking about it, but I made the joke last time, so
Okay,
you got to stay a bit creative here. Battle Forevermore asks Viper, if Arabia had an explored version like Black Forest, do you think it would be more aggressive? And feel free to chime in as well.
That's a tricky one. I feel like I need to think about that a little bit. If it was explored, would it be more aggressive? Probably not. I think you would rather know exactly where your opponent has walled and where you have walled, and you probably know more where you both are going to end up fighting, I would say. Because if you have 2 woodlands on the left, you know, okay, I can easily wall that. Then you expect your opponent to have walled that because you see it with explored. So I think probably the answer is no. I think it will be more controlled, though.
Yeah, it'll be a lot more about positional play,
Yeah.
fighting for that one hill, because everyone can recognize from the start where the important position on the map is.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Legit CE from Twitter asks Hera, but feel free to answer too. How do you maintain focus when the game gets too messy?
That's actually a great question. So what I like to think about is when the game is really messy, it's messy usually for both players. So what I try to do is just constantly be doing something. Never, ever take your hands off the keyboard and just like, okay, let me think about my next move. Always fix idols, like send some army to raid, keep the game chaotic, embrace the chaos of the game. Don't try to like shy away from it. So I think always do something with your time and in the game, obviously, and always try to keep the same messiness that you're feeling for your opponent as well.
I do agree with that. It's mostly about like making sure everything is like keep everything going. But I think the important thing is to like be aware of your winning conditions, because those will also be dictating how you should probably continue. Like if you have like, okay, if this castle goes down, I probably win the game. That's probably where your focus should be, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to obviously identify all those things in the middle of a game, but like be aware of your winning conditions and losing conditions for that matter, and just like I said, keep everything going.
Awesome. Robo, my friend Robo asks, would be interesting to know how much time and effort pro teams put into scouting the opponents and analyzing their game and drafts. Would there be any value in doing that, or potentially having a team analyst to do something like that?
I think team analyst is a bit over the top at the moment for our side, because also like it's also like people ask like, why don't you have a coach? It's like I don't think we could hire a guy, let's say, lower than us on the elo ladder and be like beneficial for us in most parts.
Right.
We can do the coach each other rather in that regard. Regarding preparation, there can be a lot to take from preparation, especially look at the opponent's draft. What are his preferences? What do you want to avoid from him? Like, for example, before our finals, I obviously looked at all Hero drafts to see like what he picks first and such, and what he bans. So there is definitely things there that you can use to your benefit, but sometimes it can also throw you off because your opponent might, he knows I'm prioritizing these civs, so I'm going to go this direction instead. But there is definitely benefit to take from that.
Yeah, 100%. I think a big thing is having multiple people looking at the draft, because if it's just yourself, you could really fall into those mind games where it's like, oh, what if he thinks this, and then you're like countering his counter.
Too deep into it.
Having multiple people, like for me, it would be like Hart and Leary usually like on voice every night preparing a draft, whether it's for me or one of them, and having multiple people keeps it grounded, but also keeps it like strategic. And I think like for KotD V for my set versus Yo, like we literally predicted his draft except 2 civs. It was like same pick, same location he got it, and that's just such a huge advantage. If you come in knowing what he's going to go for, you can just prepare exactly what you want for it. So
that's fun. Like in the past we have had, especially like Doubt against Leary in particular. Doubt has also against Yo, I don't remember, there was a Red Bull match or something, but Doubt predicted every single civ in the exact order from I think Yo or Leary, maybe both even.
And I actually think it gives a huge confidence boost in that set,
for sure.
Like, you prepared for it. You already got a win before it started.
Everything goes your way.
Exactly. So
amazing. All right, last one. This one's for you, Hera. Nikolai Gorgiev. Sorry. He asks.
Nailed it.
He asks, what was the moment you realized you had changed from quite an emotional player, prone to throwing tantrums, his words, not mine,
My.
to the present Hera that seems supremely focused, balanced, and consistent.
Yeah.
I do feel like you've kind of addressed this in the interview you gave me. That was Kings and Plebeians episode 18, for those interested.
Sell out.
But yeah, do talk a little bit about it,
Well,
if you don't mind. of course.
Yeah, no, I obviously don't mind. I think the hard thing for me is that I've always been a guy. First of all, I kind of grew up on the internet. Like I started competitive gaming or like just online gaming from like pretty young age, like 12 or 13. And in general, I was always competitive when it comes to anything. So when you combine like, developing through those early stages of life and your teens and stuff with also the competitive atmosphere, you get a lot of like emotion swings. And in general, when I was like playing those high stake games at a young age, I wouldn't know how to control my emotions or even like how to channel them. And I think that's just something I had to learn over time. But what's been difficult is that I've always had a camera in my face for like the past like 8 years now.
Everything you do is public.
Yeah, and it's like
not everything, but
the kind of thing where it's like if everyone from age 15 to 23 had most of their life published,
everybody would have something.
everyone
like that.
has some dirt. Everyone has said some things that they regret or wouldn't do now. I'm just the unfortunate one that had it on online. It obviously doesn't excuse anything I said. Like obviously anything I said, I should still learn from it or own up to it to some degree. But I just it's the kind of thing where I can't change what's said. So all I can do is move forward, and all I try to do is just move forward as best I can. And obviously, I'm not perfect now. Like, it's not like, oh, I fixed everything. It's all good. But there's always going to be some moments where it's just not my best day, not the best things to say. But it's just something I obviously try to work on, and I still get like super invested into like games and stuff, and I still take some results like really poorly. But every opportunity is one where I can like redeem myself and do a little better. Because I think if you lose a game or something, the next best thing you can do is be graceful about it, and also don't be too harsh on yourself, and give credit to your opponents. Kind of channel your defeat. Look at it through like a victory from your opponent.
Yep.
And be happy for him.
I think that's a very
You can always
important
learn as well.
Yeah.
I think what's cool though as well is like with the fact that you have had a camera on you the whole time, we have also been able to see that growth. It's like of course you've had moments, but we all like if I had a camera on me like 10, 12 years ago when I was playing Tim, the dark ages of Tim.
When I have a camera,
I would have had
but I have a few chat logs.
yeah, for sure. Like
Good game.
I would have had
walled.
moments where I definitely didn't show my best side. I think that goes for everyone. Fortunately, I was able, I got, let's say, more popular on the streaming platform once I was in my late 20s, right?
Yeah.
So I had a bit more composure about me and whatnot, but I definitely feel that competitive spirit. If this was 10 years ago, I would have probably had some rough moments myself on camera. So I think everyone goes through that. Of course, the best thing you can do is learn from them, and the best thing you can do is show that you've learned from them. And I think that's absolutely what you're doing. So
Thank you. I think the last thing I'll say about that as well is that it's kind of like if I didn't have that competitive spirit, I wouldn't be here. So
for sure.
Although there were some bad moments, I have to just embrace it, because that played a role
What
in me
brought you
getting here
here,
anyways.
yeah.
And I like where I'm at right now, and I want to push forward. So yeah.
Amazing words to finish the whole show. Viper, Hera, has been amazing. It was a really great fun for me. Thank you so much for taking the time, Hera, to be here with us.
Thank you so much, guys.
And don't forget, there's still one more video coming with Hera. We're going to be filming that in just a couple of
Oh boy.
minutes, maybe.
the real deal.
And if you enjoyed the show, don't forget to like, subscribe, type your questions for the next Q&A section in the comment section down below. And if you're listening to this on Spotify, give us a 5-star ranking. We do have our podcast on Spotify right now. Don't forget, Town Center is the name of the podcast now. Thank you so much, everybody. See you next time.